Work.
Sorry. Work. Some of us do it, some of us don't. Most of us would rather not. In a medium that's made up primarily of jobless protagonists, why would anyone choose to make a story about something we all dread? Today, we're going to take a look at a few anime that focus on work. It's actually a more common premise than you think. I'm not including anime about working in the industry though, since it's more of its own meta thing. Same with series that use work as just a backdrop. Take Golden Boy for example. It's less about work and more about traveling the world and meeting interesting people. Anime about the working class isn't really about reaching an impossible goal or saving the world, it's more about finding what gets us through the day. Whether it's work sucks but friends help you get through it, or work sucks but you can get swept up in the chaos of it, or work sucks but at least you're providing a necessary service. In a workplace anime, it can feel like the characters are just barely eking by as the work piles on and existential dread sets in. That's right, even in anime, work is hell. Just a quick disclaimer, this time I haven't seen all the shows the whole way through, but it. It's my video, we're going to talk about them anyway. Also, yeah, I still haven't activated my Windows. Don't bully me. Skullfaced bookseller Honda-san is a 12-episode miniseries about, well, a skull-faced bookseller named Honda. Originally debuting as a Pixiv comic, the series follows Honda-san, a clerk at a bookstore in Japan, as he solves a multitude of problems, ranging from unboxing mountains of books to dealing with customers with very particular needs.
Excuse me? We are looking for Japanese erotic manga.
One of the main draws of the show is Honda himself. He just has this sense of undeniable charm. Honda's work ethic is admirable, but he has intense social anxiety over the smallest interactions. Wow, he's just like me! On top of that, there's the absurdity of his workplace, from the mass coworkers to the weird and overzealous customers that Honda has to deal with. It all feels straight out of an Adult Swim show, and the voice acting, especially for Honda, is top notch. It's definitely out there sometimes, but once you settle in, it's a very comfy ride. The show also does a pretty solid job of explaining the nuanced, fast-paced, and often cutthroat environment that is the Japanese publishing industry. Even though customers just see rows and rows of stock shelves, there's a lot that goes into getting them there in the first place. That's where Honda's coworkers come in. These mass side characters are based on real people, which feels totally believable. They're pretty fleshed out, and you get a sense of what it would be like to work with them. They aren't given much backstory or even full names besides the mask they wear, and yet, they still feel like real people with goals, frustrations, and quirks. Pest Mask is a tough but straightforward boss. Paper Bag is your best bud at work. Armor would always have your back. These anonymous characters are contrasted with the real and practically uncensored names of various companies and manga properties. All of this rich texture and depth is only possible because the author themselves actually worked at a bookstore while creating the series. This is the author of Honda-san. She made the character of Honda a skeleton to protect her identity. From the few interviews that are available, she seems to be pretty reserved, and was still working at the bookstore while Honda-san was being published, which actually creates a few funny moments in the anime. We'll learn more about Honda later, but for now, just know that Skullfaced bookseller Honda-san was a small show that only lasted about one season. A few years prior though, there was another show about the pains of modern working life that took the world by storm. I'm not going to be talking much about season 3 and 4 since I didn't watch them, but season 1 and 2 of Aggretsuko were fantastic. Peak workplace commentary. I may not be familiar with these Japanese customs, but even so, Aggretsuko does a good job of highlighting the day-to-day bullshit that office workers go through, which is of course, a universal language. Aggretsuko follows the life and career of Retsuko, a 20-something-year-old red panda who works as an accountant by day, but at night, she unleashes her stress in fits of rage-fueled heavy metal karaoke. Beneath her polite smile and doe eyes lies pure rage. Evolving from its one-note premise for a Sanrio character, Aggretsuko manages to encapsulate the horrors of spending your youth in the rat race. Retsuko is a well-fleshed-out character, with struggles and the occasional triumph. You feel for her when she's at a low point, and root for her while she tries her best. She dreams of an easier life, either getting caught up in the fantasy of finding the perfect guy, or quitting for a better, less stressful job. Eventually she's always brought back down to earth, but her friends are there to help her get back up, even though they have issues of their own. If you haven't seen Aggretsuko by now, you really should, since it packs so much story into its 15-minute runtime. It's another one of those shorter shows that's really efficient with its time, which is honestly kind of invaluable these days. Some other shows can really seem like such a bad deal time-wise. Also Feneko. Watch it for Feneko. In both Aggretsuko and Honda-san, although the characters are anthropomorphized, everything still feels like an accurate representation of modern work. The pig-headed boss and his Weasley suck-up are some of the less subtle examples of this for sure, as is Pest Mask's scary demeanor. While it can be a little heavy-handed, it's also an easy way to make the characters' personality types recognizable. The gracefulness of the secretary bird Washimi or Gory the gorilla's resilience are immediately clear, and much like the co-workers in Honda-san, they become fleshed out characters in their own right. Aggretsuko is a collaboration between Rarecho and Yeti, very little is known about Yeti. She's a designer who always wears a mask to stay anonymous, and hasn't really appeared in too many interviews besides this one from Netflix. Rarecho, on the other hand, fears that he'll languish in obscurity as Aggretsuko eclipses him. Before Aggretsuko, he directed Sushi and Beyond, which, despite it being a pretty weird concept for a show, retains a lot of the same look and skeleton of Aggretsuko. The show is about a British dad who takes his family on a culinary tour of Japan. Bear in mind, this guy is a real dude who wrote a book about it. Instead of making it some sort of NHK or BBC special though, it became these short anime episodes with some light documentary sections at the end. It's actually pretty interesting, but looking at the designs here, I see why they use animals instead of humans going forward. The creators put a lot of themselves into the show, sometimes literally, as Rarecho provides Retsuko's death metal voice. He also had his wife Cowlip provide the voice of Retsuko. Many of Retsuko's experiences, like accidentally taking sandals to work, are based on similar events in Rarecho's life. The idea for Retsuko's death metal aesthetic actually came from something fairly innocuous as well. When Yeti heard her friend complaining about work, she said that the grunts they did sounded like death metal, which goes to show you that you really never know what moments can eventually work themselves into the projects you're making. In Yeti's interview, there's a moment when she alludes to the exhausting work culture of Japan. Some of the frustrations in Retsuko's character revolve around this as well. Japan is infamously known for its brutal work culture, complete with long hours and frustratingly old-fashioned customs. The problem is seemingly multiplied in creative fields as well, with famous mangaka being prime examples of the dangerous work culture that persists in Japan. I mean, Rarecho thought the series was finished in Season 3, and sorta just found out about Season 4's renewal on Twitter. If that doesn't say something about how hard Japanese creators have to work, I don't know what does. Okay, let's say this slice of life stuff isn't for you. You're thinking, where's the action? I hate my job too, but why would I want to watch a skeleton and a raccoon talk about the problems all day? Well, my impolite friend, you'd probably like Cells at Work. The main characters are Red Blood Cell AE3803 and White Blood Cell U1146. 3803 is new and makes tons of mistakes at first, but she still tries her best. She works as a courier, delivering oxygen to different parts of the body. Of course, there are tons of other jobs as well, like military personnel, custodial workers, and tiny construction workers that all provide a necessary service. Am I the only one getting B-movie vibes here? Like any other job, it comes with its stresses. The immune system is short-staffed, the resources are outdated, and sometimes the more experienced cells haze the new hires. The series is about work, it's in the name after all, but it also serves as a shonen anime, with the cells fighting against bacterial and viral invaders. All in all, it's pretty great, but the main reason I brought it up today is because of the mystery surrounding its author. You see, the author Akane Shimizu is most likely a pseudonym. There's currently zero information about the author across various sites. No images, no interviews of previous works, not even a blood type. The name Akane, meaning deep red, also leads me to believe that this is a pen name. If you think about it, it is sort of a weird subject for a series. Sure, there have been movies like Osmosis Jones that are about germs and cells, but they don't go into nearly as much depth in biology as Cells at Work does. Cells at Work is a series that effortlessly creates analogies for the human body, that at the very least will require some heavy consultation from a medical worker. Take the first villain, Pneumococcus, for instance. Their design is modeled directly after the strain of a pneumococcus bacteria. Considering the fact that Cells at Work didn't last very long relative to most successful manga runs, it's entirely possible that Akane Shimizu is someone that wanted to tell a story and vanished without a trace. They're probably still working in the medical field, or at the very least they're passionate about it and did heavy amounts of research. The other authors that we talked about today also had some layer of anonymity to them. This points to a recent trend. Many mangaka these days prefer to live a quiet life. While not much is known about Honda, she has done at least a few interviews. Free from the bookstore, she now pursues other creative endeavors as a mangaka, such as her recently launched manga, From Sick Planet with Love, as well as her previous series, Hoshitonde. Skullfaced bookseller Hana-san sounds like it was a long process to get off the ground though. In her own words, Hana says this about it.
これまでの期間が何年間かあったんですね。なので、アルバイトとして入社してから、退職するまでの間にゆっくりいろんなエピソードとかを集めていった形になりますので、長いですね。そう考えると。
The creation of the Hana-san manga is referenced in the anime, but it doesn't suddenly become an anime about making manga. The story is still by and large about the daily frustrations of a bookstore clerk. Honda took those frustrations and collected small moments along the way that came together as a piece of art. Once that took off, it allowed her to free herself from that job. Working for yourself may present its own set of challenges, but building something on your own and seeing it come to fruition is an unparalleled feeling. The character of Honda is well established as someone who doesn't like to escape his comfort zone. Even so, Honda found the courage to start publishing on Pixiv, and it blossomed into a way to achieve creative freedom. I think Honda-san taps into something we all have in common, the determination to try our best in spite of the many obstacles that get in our way. It's something that can be seen in all these works. There are nice customers as well, and despite the amount of problems that bookstore clerks, distributors, and salespeople have to put up with, They're providing customers with a product that they have a passion for. The same goes for Rarecho, who finds strong and loyal friends that are there for her. Even the cells find tiny moments in their own jobs that make it all worthwhile. Even if you're not exactly where you want to be right now, it's not all that bad. To me personally, it's these small vulnerable moments that make the most impact in these stories. And maybe the anonymity of the authors lets them feel comfortable with that, putting their most relatable thoughts into their work. I myself find comfort behind the shield of anonymity. I get why they like their privacy, especially when your work goes out to hundreds and thousands of people, and I talk to maybe only a couple dozen of you. Lately, I've also been feeling the pressures of work. I make videos on top of working full-time. Some days, I'm absolutely slammed, and the last thing I want to do is think hard about any particular topic. But I still try to carve out time for it. Do I make as much progress as I should? Well, no. But at least there's still some progress. Sometimes the expectations we set for ourselves can also make us feel like it's easier to just give up on the whole thing. You agonize over starting it again and again, and suddenly, it's Sunday. The week is over, and the cycle continues. But there's no shame in failing this week, and there's no shame in failing the next week, as long as you keep trying. That's why I find these creators so inspirational. Most of them didn't come out the gate making anime. They had experiences first. In Honda's case, she kept trying every day to make her dreams of creating a manga a reality. And although I can't dedicate as much time as I like to these videos, I still love it when I do find the time to work on them. It's something that I own, although let's be honest, the way the platform is headed, it feels like I'm competing to be a manager in a small chain of pizza shops. But at least it's something I started from the ground up and will continue to improve on. If you watch this far, I'd like to thank you for tagging along. Be well, take care of yourself, and whatever it is that you do, I hope that you continue to do your best.